Hi guys. So I just finished recording and reviewing the big old message you're about to watch, but I did realize I forgot a couple things and they feel like typos. I don't know how to put them in where they belong, so I'm just slapping them in at the beginning. So the first thing that I forgot to share about my twin flame relationship experience journey, whatever you want to call it, is the reason why I mentioned Eric. And I started to talk about how I began to crack open for him. And the reason that he was significant is because when I connected with Michael, because there was like never any kind of like real concrete relationship between Michael and I believed that what I was doing was he was like a surrogate for a past life that I shared with Eric, and that was the one at the brothel. It was the one that I had recalled during a past life regression. So for the longest time, I believed that that Michael didn't have anything to do with Michael, and it was all about Eric and fixing some other past life stuff. So part of it, I was kind of on track about it because I was told that that I was doing like a twin relationship with Eric in that brothel life, but he was killed before I got to finish my work. So that is why Michael contracted for me to relearn that self-love in this lifetime. And I mentioned a little bit in the video that I wanted to touch on that at a different time when we talk about timelines and things like that, because basically I was given an impression that he died prematurely. Well, when everything is exactly as it's supposed to be, how could that be prematurely? So I don't understand what that means exactly. So that's one thing I'd like to investigate a different day. Another thing that I sort of messed up on, nobody will care but me. I just messed up on the time. Michael was always available for me except for when he was asleep. So he went to bed at midnight and he woke up at 7. He is a complete creature of habit. For me, that was 5 o'clock till midnight that I had to be without him, and it was slightly torturous. It was actually once he went to bed, I'd have anxiety like an hour before his bedtime, but once I knew he was in bed and all tucked away, it was like a huge relief. I knew he was all tucked away and safe. I didn't have to worry about where he was or keep tabs on him or anything else, because I really did have to keep tabs on him. He gave me links to all of the games that he would play and stuff, and he did like online community games, so I could see if he was there or not. I always knew where he was because I needed to know where he was. I knew which days he went to the gym, about how long he'd be gone. I needed to know everything. I needed to know where he was because I was so attached to him. I was like a toddler with the mommy at the preschool. Don't leave me. He was my blankie. I needed him. Okay, so that's what the time thing was fucked up about. I totally forgot this. This is so significant. I mentioned that I learned some devastating news while at the dentist office. I learned about something about Michael and his girlfriend. It broke my heart so much that I had to like run away from home and go cry for 6 hours by myself. 6 hours of straight intense bawling my brains out at a park alone. And I wasn't even getting any dental work done. I mentioned before, I was just in the receptionist office setting up appointments for the future. Well, I couldn't go to the dentist for 2 years. I was like so traumatized by that. I didn't even want to walk into an office. But we had moved into a new neighborhood and 2 years had gone by and I knew I needed to get my kids into the dentist, not to mention myself. So I finally went and I had my appointment, but I was there a different day. And while I was making appointments for my kids in the receptionist area, I learned some devastating news about the second twin. So again, just in the video I mentioned like the patterns being identical. So both times I was at the dentist, I learned something that really broke my heart. But what's interesting about that, and the reason I bring that up, is because when I was in high school, my mom worked at the dentist office as a receptionist. And the office was in between, like the halfway point between the school and home. So whenever I'd walk home, not always, but sometimes I'd stop in and say a quick hello, get a drink of cold water. And I did have a boyfriend in high school. I did learn that he had cheated on me, and I'm wondering and I don't have any memory of this, I'm just speculating, because everything was so identical, and it seemed to be such a huge occurrence about this dentist office that I'm wondering if I didn't find out about my boyfriend cheating on me while at the receptionist area at the dentist. And I talked to Robert Burke about this when I was at Elise's not too long ago, and we had some theories, and Minerva even chimed in about how the dentist implies having like an open mouth and needing to feed feed yourself, and she's mentioned something about how I needed to feed the chase. And I'm not really sure about that. I have my own theories. I'm going to share them in a future video. I don't know what that was about, but not that I need the validation, but I really am interested to know if I did in fact learn some information that broke my heart while at that dentist reception area. Okay, so another thing I wanted to talk about was, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because I'm not the only one. I know I'm not. I know plenty of you have mama issues. You've told me. I've got a lot of, private messages and a lot of public support and messages about your own shitty mothers. And so again, don't feel like a victim. I'm going to go over that later on in the video. But one of the consequences of having a mother that did not show me love and affection, a mother that held me down, a mother that treated me the way that she did, one of the things was because I didn't have any communication skills. I became a horrible self-abuser, self-mutilator. I'd hurt myself all the time. I talked about that just a little bit. But another consequence of that is that I was always looking for love. And when I became old enough to love boys romantically, you're 5 years old, you're not looking for romance. But when I was older, I would try to compensate for the love lacking in my mother relationship with men. And I don't remember if it was Archangel Michael or Raphael or who it was, but one of them called me out on the Shiny Show, and they didn't say my name, but I knew damn well that they were talking about me. They said something about, and the girl who doesn't get love from her mother goes out and seeks it from men, and isn't that a shame? I can't remember the rest of it, but it was about the girl having the broken heart, because that's not where you're going to find love. You're not going to find love through sex with teenage boys. It's just not going to happen. And I mention that because I know I'm not the only one that has suffered that way. I know that people are on this journey. It stands to reason that we learn through love, we learn through relationships, and Jean-Francois and Voltaire. I can't remember who else has said to me that learning self-love through romantic relationships, through others, learning self-love through another person is one of the hardest journeys you can take, and I can attest to that. It was a really tough journey to take. And then lastly, what that I forgot is that another video altogether, and I'm inviting mediums who has any kind of insight or a curiosity to learn about this to raise your hand and let me know if you'd like to do this interview with me. But I want to understand free will more, because I'm finally starting to put together, Minerva's giving me this little nibble to kind of work with, but I can't get it all the way. And I'm trying to integrate me with Fairy Girl. I want to understand free will. And here's my example. I'm going to use this with whoever I talk to Spirit with about this. When I have a plate of cookies in front of me, and I'm going to use food as an example because I'm still obsessed with food. So no, that's a story for another day. But if I have a plate of cookies in front of me, I understand that it is clearly my choice to either eat a cookie or not eat a cookie. That is my free will choice. I get that. It's obvious. I get it. But how does free will come into play when you have an adjustment bureau come in and bring you a new man to love? When you fall in love with somebody, you fall in love with them. I don't have a platter full of men to say, okay, I'm gonna love that one. You fall in love with them. But I know that was a soul choice. So how does my soul's choice equate my choice when it comes to free will? Because you don't choose to fall, you fall. You choose to pick up that cookie, but you don't necessarily choose to fall in love. So I'm really trying to work on letting my brain have that integration of the two parts of me equal one. That I'm really trying to understand and be okay with free will being mine even when I am not consciously aware of it. That's a tricky one. So, all right, I just threw a bunch of extra stuff at you. So let me go ahead and clap my clapperboard. Here I go, talking about twin flame bullshit, my personal story. I hope that some of you find it interesting. It always worries me. It's an hour-long story, and I swear I've only just scratched the surface of it. All right, you guys, thank you for watching and always supporting me. Here we go. Action. Thanks, guys. Hi, guys. It's me, Carrie, Silver Lining Meta. And today on Silver Linings, I'm going to share my personal twin flame relationship journey. A couple days ago in my Facebook group, I had posted this very Carrie meme, and I said I had actually recorded this story right then, and I was over it, I was leaving it. But after sitting on that for about a week, I realized that was not the right version because I continued to process my feelings and thoughts, and I had to push through a little something. And I think I'm through it now because I'm feeling much better. So I don't really know where to start except for at the beginning, and that kind of starts with Eric. But I'm going to be brief about that. Um, I think that for this story, the Eric part is significant just because it fed into my delusions a little bit and my misunderstandings. And it was about 5 years ago. It's 5 years ago this July. It's July now. It's July 2019 when I'm recording this, and back in July 2014 is when I had already, been familiar with Eric. I had met him through a trance channeling with Jamie. All that stuff's really, really cool stories. But I'm going to fast forward to that July when I started to kind of lose my shit. I was cracking open and I was having not necessarily like memories. I couldn't remember things like in an intellectual way, but my heart, my soul, and my spirit were tapping into my lifetime. I don't know if it's my previous, it's a different lifetime that I shared with Eric, and it's the one where I was a hooker in the brothel, and I had lost him, and I was starting to kind of feel that loss 5 years ago. It was coming through for me. So I started losing my shit over a dead boy I had never even met, and it was very confusing. And to make a kind of a medium story short, basically he had sent me on my way to go and just leave his group for a while and disassociate because I was getting a very kind of toxic obsession about him. I didn't understand it. So fast forward a little bit, and this, in the middle of my life, I started actually getting off medications. I was on antidepressants and a bunch of other pills, and I just started, for an unknown reason, cleaning myself out. And I told myself it was because I was interested in like third eye experiences, and I knew that having different kinds of medications and toxics in your body was not conducive to such things. So that was my motivation. I didn't realize that I was beginning this epic journey of waking up. And that same summer, when I started to remember my other life with Eric, he had died in that lifetime, and prematurely. He was killed. And I won't necessarily say prematurely because if everything's already written up, then I don't understand how he died early. I'll have to investigate that one day. And I will too, because it's so interesting and confusing to me. I want to set that stuff straight. But in the channeling Eric groups, people would ask to friend me, and I didn't really seek people out. But when they came my way, if they were part of channeling Eric, they were already an in because I was already so kind of hooked. I didn't understand to the extent. I didn't realize I had shared an oversoul with Eric, and that I truly did have a very strong connection to him. But I did like him. I liked his mouth. I resonated with it. I related to it. He was my guy. So when this other guy, Michael, friend requested me, I accepted and I didn't think anything of it. But throughout that summer of detoxing and learning and processing and just starting my journey, I had done a past life regression, and I'd love to tell that story one day. I will, because that was trippy. But so all these things are happening to me throughout the summer. The end of July is when things started to go from fun and interesting to painful and confusing. And it wasn't too long after that, I was on a vacation with my mom and kids, and something prompted me to message this guy. I'd kind of been following him on Facebook a little bit because he was attracting me with these breadcrumbs. If you've been paying attention to my story, you know that my number is 17, and it doesn't really mean anything. I don't know what the meaning of it is, but for me, it just feels like the guides are, throwing God winks at me. And so he kept posting things about 17s, and so I noticed him. And one day on August 17th of 2015, 14, I messaged him and I said, "Do you feel me having a crush on you?" And we didn't talk for very much because I was actually packing to go home from my vacation. School was about to start and we had to get back home. So I told him when I did get back home, I'd message him and we'd have a little fun. And I didn't know what that meant. I had never had internet fun before. I was, just some shy girl. But I had tended to have some kind of fun with him. Really did not end up being very much fun. But I didn't know at the time what this was about, who this guy was, or why I was messaging him, anything. So sure enough, I got home and I got my kids going in school, and the summer was over and I could focus on myself finally. That was the summer of, I just spent 7 weeks away from home, traveling around the country with my kids. So the second day that they were back in school, I completely lost my shit and had a huge meltdown. And that was the beginning of my twin flame relationship. And I'm going to go ahead and stick to the term twin flame, even though in my last video, Minerva says it's not really your twin. That's a misconception. And if you kind of think about what she says, it makes sense. Because why, your twin, she says that your twin truly is your split of yourself. So there's two like identical versions of you, but you don't come to Earth at the same time. It's not like what the internet, said. When I started my journey, there's a lot of confusion, and that's one of the things I want to debunk is all this confusion. Because the internet said that you are one soul split in two, and if you both incarnate in this particular lifetime together, then you are one of the special 144,000 souls. I don't know who's taking that census or whatever, but you are one of the 144,000 souls that are here to connect and save the planet. And because you have connected in this time, you never have to reincarnate on Earth again. But that doesn't make sense to come back to yourself, because we're here to learn, and you always learn through others. You could technically, look in the mirror and do some self-reflecting, but you will learn more off of other people and their perceptions and their, whatever. So it seems less efficient to learn from your split self. So get that definition right out of your head. So even though Minerva calls it, what did she call it? A romantic soulmate relationship. I'm going to stick to the twin name just because I've been using it for so long. It's what's stuck, and I know many of you are familiar with that term too. But technically, we're not twins. It doesn't, actually, Michael and I, the other video, just to recap, we are part of a same soul family. We share an oversoul, and that's Minerva. So we are not twins, but we have very similar vibrations. And the reason that he is my twin in this lifetime is because on the flip side, he is my favorite, and we are romantic soulmates. And I contracted with him to destroy me so I can put myself back together, so I can unfuck myself. And so let me go back, and I'm sorry I'm all over the place. Hopefully I'll get all of this in. Gosh, I wish I had a counter here. Oh, I do. So I really lost my mind at this time. I had an especially brutal waking up. I know I'm not the only one, but I have learned from other people that are experiencing these twin relationships that theirs just doesn't even touch the level of severity and insanity that mine did. I'm glad to finally have a frame of reference, and even though I'm not looking for people to feel sorry for me or anything, I really wanted that validation that I did in fact have a radical experience. And I remember I was talking to God one time on the Shiny Show, and I asked God, did I take one for the team? Why am I so fucked up? And he said, it was he that day, I think. God said, oh yeah, you definitely took one for the team. I didn't know what that meant. I thought it meant for my soul group M6, but I have come to realize, at least I'm assuming at this point, that the team was this big old group of you that have been drawn to my videos, because you too will be experiencing self-love through these kinds of relationships, and I'm here to be a guide of sorts. My husband always accused me of being a know-it-all, and I finally get to embrace that title because I think that I am like the current expert, at least in our group, because we do have like an extended soul family. So anybody connected with Eric, I feel, will be drawn to me for this kind of explanation, lesson, whatever it is. So that is why I took one for the team. And Minerva had said that I was part of a group contract where I'm going to go through the radical shit so that I can have compassion and understanding and be able to explain it. And you guys will know that I know what you're going through. And that matters to us. It's not so much that misery loves company. It's just that we feel better when we know that others understand or have gone through our same kinds of stripes. It just is comforting to us. So here I am to comfort you. All right, so back to Michael, because I had just woken up and it was a really extreme waking up for me. I wasn't especially spiritual at all before. I didn't have any beliefs one way or another. I know I hated the Bible and all things associated with it. Because of that, kind of shut off God too. So I didn't really have like a thoughts or theories about God in the afterlife one way or another. It just didn't wasn't on my radar. I didn't care. Same thing about aliens and ETs. It's not that I believed or disbelieved. I just didn't care. It was, to me, I've used this example before. It was like football. It exists, but it's not part of my world. I don't know anything about it. And what I was told that what happened to me when I woke up is that my crown chakra opened wide up, and when that happened, I was like instantly had access to all my other lives or all my other incarnations or something to that effect. So to me, it translated, and I don't get like thoughts, I don't get messages, I don't get pictures. What I got was confusion. I called it scribbles in my brain, and I get emotion. I would often have these extreme, intense emotions and not even know what they were coming from. Part of it was that I was transmuting negative energy for the entire planet. I didn't know any of this stuff. I thought I was just grieving for past life shit. And up until a few weeks ago, I truly believed that the reason my experience was so radical was because I was healing for more than just my own life. I've been told many times that I was healing on behalf of all of M6. But I also, and I didn't know to that extent, was I healing for just M6 right now or for all of their incarnations? Was I healing for all of my incarnations? Because I used to claim that I was healing for the entire world and 1,000 of my own lifetimes. I just threw that number out there because it's big. Because that's how painful it was. I believed I was healing for 1,000 other lifetimes worth of hurt. So I tried to get these answers from Minerva, and wasn't even understanding my question. But the answers she gave me helped me put what really happened together. And now it has nothing to do with any other lives. This is 100% me choosing to go batshit for this guy. I went fucking insane. And because I was, had that crown chakra open, I was having all these physical kinds of sensations, and I felt like I was, 2,000 pounds. I couldn't climb out of bed to make my kids a sandwich. I couldn't think straight. I had to constantly blast music in my brain because it helped keep the scribbles at bay. At least it like led them through a cohesive melody of sorts. I spent a lot of time flying around on my tree swing and jumping on my trampoline. I had an excess of energy. I should really make a whole video on just the wake up process, although I've described a lot of it right now. I didn't eat hardly anything. I thought I was magically, losing weight through all this energy healing. Well, I'm still trying to lose weight 5 years later. So I did lose some, but that's because I had an abundance of energy and a lack of appetite, but that shit didn't last. Um, so because I was so nuts and because all of these really strange physical and mental things were happening to me, I was prepared to believe anything that the internet told me. And Michael, I'm gonna really sound like a victim when it comes to him for a little bit, and I'm also gonna kind of sound like I'm picking on him, and I'm not. I'm not. I just want to give a perception of what it was like for me back then. And I mean, truthfully, he did sign up to be my bad guy, so he is my bad guy. So, give me a little bit of time to go ahead and be a hater and be a victim because he did do things to me. He did hurt me. He did break my heart, but he was supposed to, so that's okay. But because I was so weird, and he is an unusual person. He'll be the first to admit it. I'm not talking shit, but because he was so odd and quiet, I never really got to know who he was. So I would have to create and invent him, and I'd put him on these pedestals that didn't even make sense. The first one I put him on was I believed he was like half angel and half human, and his sole purpose in life was to guide me through my awakening. I mean, so I thought that he was just, at home playing video games, biding his time, waiting for me to need him, which was all the time. I had to be in constant contact, constant connection with him. He was gone from me for 7 hours a day. And for me, that was from my midnight until his 7 a.m. Otherwise, he was always available for me, and I needed that. I was so attached to him. I've never felt that kind of attachment for anybody ever. I couldn't I couldn't live without him. I couldn't breathe without him. I couldn't go to the store without him. And I constantly had my tablet glued to me, and I would always check the chat to make sure his green active now dot was lit because I just needed to have him by me all the time. I told him everything. I told him every time I was going to go somewhere, I needed for him to know. I'd tell him what I cooked for dinner, or rather what I burnt for dinner. I told him everything. There is nothing that man doesn't know about me from the minute I was born up until the moment we stopped communicating, I don't know, like a year or something ago. And so I thought he was this, strange, unusual, angelic being. And I had all these nicknames for him, and one of them was Space Dog, and that was based on a meme where I can't remember it exactly, but it's like a dog and a rocket ship, and he's looking at the camera, and the caption says something like, on the internet, you get to be whatever you want. So he's like pretending to be an astronaut or something, but he's really a dog. So I'd call him my space dog because he wasn't what he appeared to be. Well, I found out that he wasn't an angel, a half angel, sent on earth just for my benefit. He had his own life to live, and his own life consisted of regular living. And so I was very disappointed because there's my angel, and he's not here at my beck and call anymore. He went and moved on with life. And I want to explain. Let's see. Let me go ahead and talk more about how in love with this guy I was. I was like, I became him. I couldn't even decide what to have for dinner without getting his input. I was so just nuts. And it was a true obsession. It was a love obsession, and it was a sex obsession because my fuck dial got turned on full blast during this thing, and it stayed that way. I was in a perpetual state of arousal, always unsatisfied, both sexually and romantically. He was always out of my reach. It's like the carrot was continuously dangled in front of me. It was like being in physical therapy, and that no matter how well I did and how much better I got, I was always pushed beyond my limits. I never got the satisfaction. I never got to hold on and grasp onto that thing that I needed, I wanted so bad. So I'm gonna, there's so much to this story. I mean, there's like I said, this happened 5 years ago. I got 5 years worth of stories to tell about it. So, I mentioned before that I did my shadow work with him. I would journal to him. I definitely needed that. And I realize now, based on what Minerva said, that I was giving him my power. I was allowing myself to believe that he could heal me. And in a way, it did happen. I needed to have that journaling. I needed to have that shadow work done. And I needed to have a recipient of what I had to say. And he was the one. A big difference now is that now I do my shadow work on my show here. I am not dependent on him to receive my words. And I know that people are receiving it, but it's kind of anonymous. I don't really know who's getting what out of this. I do get some comments, but because I appreciate it. I don't mean to say I don't appreciate it, but when it came to these men, because there was another twin, but I depended so much on hearing me, and if they didn't, I would like crumble. And I don't, if somebody doesn't watch my show, whatever, you don't have to. I got it out of my system, whether somebody watches it or not. So I get what Minerva meant by I gave them power, believing they could heal me. So crazy I was about this guy, and it never really felt like a real relationship because even though at the beginning there was like some slight flirting. I'm a really flirty person though. I flirt with everyone. So even though there was a little bit of that, it never really felt like we had anything going. It always felt like unrequited love, that it was always me chasing him, because in a twin flame dynamic, there is a chaser and a runner. And very often, I feel that it's probably the women that are the chasers. I don't think that's the rule. I think that maybe just because we're more in touch with our feelings or something, I think it can definitely go both ways. But well, as long as I'm here, I want to talk about like statistics of twins. Again, I don't think this is the rule, but generally speaking, these people that have contracted to be in these kinds of relationships, they're not easy relationships. He lives half a world away from me. He was born when I was 17. I'm 17 years older than him. That's kind of funny to me. So, I mean, technically, I could be his mama. He lives far away. The age difference huge, and either one or both parties are involved in other relationships. And he was single when I met him. I was married with 3 kids, but he didn't stay single, and that is significant. And I'm going to talk about that right now because that's part of my story, is him being not single. And I want to tell this story. I'm going to be a little bit vague. Hopefully I can get it out. I messaged this boy, and as I already mentioned, I told him, I have a crush on you. Did you know I had a crush on you? And then, not too much longer, I flew out to see him. I got to meet him, and I was like instantly electric for him. I could not keep my hands off of him. Oh my gosh, it was so intense. And I spent some real sweet time with him, like the best time ever. Oh, it was so beautiful. And it was fairly innocent. I won't say it was completely innocent, but it was innocent enough. But what did happen was enough to hook me. It had all the right ingredients. And when I came home, I was so in love with him. I was so happy. And it wasn't soon after that I found out through a mutual friend that he had a girlfriend. And so I was like the secret, and he had this public announcement of this girl, and all of my friends were on board and recognizing it, and oohing and on and praising it. Meanwhile, I'm brokenhearted by myself. I don't even get to announce my experience with him because I have to be the secret. I have to be the second best secret. And I learned about something. I learned, another moment that broke my heart. I was at the dentist office, and I wasn't getting my teeth work done. I was just in the reception area booking appointments for my kids. And I learned the most devastating news that broke my heart so badly that I couldn't go back to the dentist again. I moved to a new home. I was in a new neighborhood, and 2 years later, I put my foot down, and I'm like, I have got to get my kids into the dentist. So I go to the dentist, and in the reception area, I learned some devastating news about my next twin. And I know I'm being a little bit confusing about this, but what I learned about the next twin was what had happened with the first twin, because I had spent some time with the first twin too. The same kind of time, just innocent enough, but just not so innocent either, enough to hook me. Then I come home, and I learned through a mutual friend at the dentist office, he chose the other girl. And again, I was the secret, but she wasn't. She wasn't the secret. We have mutual friends that knew about it and oohed and awed and were very excited for her. So there it happened twice. The same thing kept happening over and over to me. And I'm sorry that I'm being confusing. This is a hard story to tell and keep going in one video. And I have notes, but I don't want to keep looking at them. I'm trying to make this as fluid as possible. But if you remember from Minerva, I tried to find out why I had two twins. She didn't want to tell me why. She says, I'll figure it out. And I did figure it out. And this is what I learned. This is what is so significant. And this is what I want everybody to learn. Because it doesn't matter if you're on a twin flame journey or not. This one just really will take the victim right out of you. So, okay, here's another clue I had. I'm going to stop again. Sorry I do this to you. But everybody knows that I had mommy issues. And my mom fucked my shit up. She did certain things to me. And some of the things I didn't even know were damaging to me. And I'm going to give you an example of one of those. One time, it was, a long time ago. I was about 20 years old. And my mom was my confidant to an extent. And, we'd bitch and complain about whatever's going on in our lives, work, relationships, friendships, whatever. So I remember I was complaining to her about my husband and in a fight we had or something. I don't even know what I said. But her response to me was, I don't know what you're getting so worked up about. He's not like the last guy you're ever going to be with. Well, I have been married to this man for almost 30 years. And it really hurt my feelings that she invalidated my relationship and just made it like it was a big nothing. I didn't know that affected me to the extent it did until I redid it with my next version of my mama. So I had somebody, I attracted somebody to contracted, our soul cells contracted to bring somebody else in to stand in as my mom. And I had to go through several things. This new version of my mom, she kind of did the same thing that my mama did. And when I would whine and cry about Michael, she'd say, you know what? He's got a new girlfriend. You just got to let him go. He's moved on. You move on. And again, I felt like my relationship was completely invalidated, and that this new version of my mom I just didn't get. And it was so devastating to me to not be understood. And I just felt like I didn't have a confidant in her. I couldn't trust that friend anymore with my deep heartfelt emotions and stories and whatever. So, but that particular instance let me understand that things that we think don't matter to us do matter to us. All the garbage that gets dumped on us, sometimes it's this big and you don't even realize how much it matters. But because I had this identical relationship with my mom and then my surrogate mom, I started to realize that I had created a second custom relationship. So let's go back to the twins. I had these two identical twin relationships over and over again. I would do the same thing with the second one that I did with the first one. And I couldn't figure out why. Why was I doing it again? And at first I thought because like I said, with Michael, it never felt like a real relationship. It felt like me having this, crazy obsession on somebody that wasn't interested, but we both knew that it was a spiritual thing and that I was healing and learning and growing through him. So that's all I thought it was. I didn't even consider it to be a romantic relationship, because how can it be romantic when only one person feels it? So, but when the second twin came around, it was completely different. He did seem interested and we did spend time together, and he felt like, I don't know, I mean, we lived too far away to consider it dating, but we did spend some time together, and I got to see what he was like and how much fun he was, and we would Skype and message and, send funnies to each other, and I was a friend to him and he was a friend to me. And I did the same thing, I do my shadowing and journaling work on him, and it was just so odd. And over again, I'd say to him, "Isn't it weird that I'm having the same relationship twice?" But the difference, again, was that because there was more of a friendship and interaction and even a bit of a romance with this one, I believed that what had happened was that when I gave up Michael, I had allowed myself to experience a more vibrationally matched, satisfying relationship. I thought I hit the jackpot with this guy, because every time he would, pull some shit on me and break my heart, like I had already been broken, there would be communications and explanations. So I felt like he was here to like re-break whatever wounds were created the first one so that I could heal properly. Because even the hurtful parts became more satisfying. Every single shitty thing that happened felt like it got put back together. Until it came to the point where we were to part. I still had to put together that this was another twin flame relationship, and I was still, even though Jean-Francois, remember that? You got to go watch that one. If you are listening to this twin flame stuff and you're involved in it, you got to go back and watch the Jean-Francois video. And in that one, he told me that I am here to teach you to not be second best. And I still didn't get it, because I really thought that I was doing so good with this guy. But what's so interesting about, I mean, there's so many interesting things, but one of them was that here's my relationship with Michael starts way, oh look, I got a tattoo to honor Michael. A girl that said she'd never get a tattoo. It's actually for Eric and Michael. I combined them. I got a tattoo. So here's my relationship over here with Michael, and here's, this is hard because it's like the opposite. It's like looking at a mirror. And here's the other one, and they both start way over here, but they both hit their climax at the same day, and that was the day I did the animal video with Jason. I had to tell them both to fuck off. And it was so weird the way that the internet like manipulates shit, and everything is just so perfectly timed. I gotta talk about that craziness, because those guys, they do have ways to come and fuck with our electronics. They fucked with my Facebook page so that I wouldn't see something until that day. I want to find out how they do that stuff. So anyway, I finally realized what was happening, and part of that was because of the clues Minerva gave me. And what she said to me, and I was like, why did I get the twin? Well, I got it. It's because I quit learning. I quit learning with Michael, and I felt a little guilty about that at first. Like I was responsible for fucking shit up. She said, don't feel like you fucked shit up. You just chose this other path. But I did feel responsible, and oh, I lost my thought. I lost my train of thought already. Oh, I'm doing pretty good though. Okay, I'm going to have to move on. Whatever thought I was thinking will come back to me. Um, oh, I know. When I was talking to her about Avery and how pure my love for him is, and he's the only one of all of the men in my life ever that right on video for 1,000 people to see made love declarations to me. He proposed to me on Stardust, and I've never had a more romantic moment in my life. When all the other men in my life have been, shh, you're the secret, don't tell anyone, you're only second best. This one, Avery, just blasts at every opportunity that I had as number one. I always love that man so much. We have such an unusual relationship. Oh, it's another thing. I call myself unconventional Carrie with unconventional relationships, and I've been so excited that I get to be a cougar. Well, the reason I get to be a cougar is because of these twin relationships. I don't know if I'll have any other young men or not, but now I get it. Whatever, I'll take it any way I can get it because I'm so excited to be a cougar. That's so fun. All right, so back to the twinny shit. Anyway, I don't know where I was going, but I got so much to say, it doesn't matter. I can just keep on going on a new trail. So what I learned was that my relationship with twin number 2 did not mimic my relationship with twin number 1. Both of those relationships mimicked a lifetime's worth of relationships with men. Because it was Minerva who told me the reason that you have Avery and he is so pure and good to you is because human relationships suck. And you've had all of these men shit on you your whole life. You have to have one thing that keeps you believing in love. And I thought about that. I'm like, God, I had to have somebody else tell me that men treat me like shit. It's like, I'm like so feeling so unworthy that I didn't even know. I'm still learning that stuff. I am 48 years old and I'm just now figuring it out. Jean-Francois said that twin number 2 would be my final lesson in finding my self-worth, and I have found it. Because my new mantra is I will never be second best and I will never be anybody's secret. That's one of the reasons I'm telling this story. And even though I am not mentioning twin number 2's name, I will at some point, but he's not on board with this entirely. And I don't want to make him feel uncomfortable if he's not watching this. Michael has given me permission to say his name, and I know that Minerva wouldn't continue to talk about him if she didn't know that he was okay with it. I even got permission from other people to talk about their stories too. So when I don't have permission, I choose to be vague to respect them. So I am not anybody's secret. That truth will come out soon enough. But I realized that with the mamas, I had one specific mama, and the next one copied that one relationship. I did have a couple other mama like experiences here and there, but there was one main mama. So for these twins, there was not one man that fucked me up that I could go back to and, say, that's what he did, that's what he did, that's what he did. It's like, no, oh, this one did that, and this one did that, and this one did that, and that one did that. But they were all the same theme. And I'm going to go all the way back. Remember I said you don't even know how significant things are, how much they affect you. But I'm going to go back to the first boy I ever loved. And I'm not even going to say his name. It doesn't really matter, but he was a boy from the skating rink, and I loved him. I loved him for like 6 years. Unrequited love again. My theme. And before I moved away from the town that we both lived in, I spent a little bit of time with him. I was 12 years old, so it was a very innocent time together. But still, what he said was, shh, don't tell anyone. And then as soon as I moved away, as soon as I left, he went and got himself a girlfriend. And she was my friend. And everybody oohed and awed and thought they were so sweet. This happened again and again. And I was always the secret. I had a girlfriend, a really good friend of mine. And I'm not beating myself up about this. I realize it was an experience I contracted for. And I also understand I forgive myself 100% because I didn't have any self-esteem. But when I would, we'd all go out party, and when we'd come home, they'd go to sleep, and I'd be sleeping on the couch, and he'd come out. He'd come spend time with me while she's asleep, and I'd let him. I was the secret. Shh. She was the public. She got all the praise, the presents, the trips, the dinners, the love. I got the secret. Shh. And this happened again and again. And my husband and I never really, I don't know. Our relationship has been less of a romantic one almost from the beginning and more of just learning off of each other and, taking care of each other and supporting each other in different ways. He really had a a tough time with me because I was insane. My mom made me crazy. Again, contracted, I chose it. I'm not pointing fingers necessarily, but she didn't give me a voice. And because of that, I became completely ill-equipped to handle anything. So I would just cut myself. I have scars. Scars all over I don't know if you can see them, all over my body. My chest is cut open, my legs. I tried to cut my heart out. I used to rip out my hair. Ugh. And anyway, so my husband, he had to deal with a lot of shit. So we never really had like that big romance. So when I talk about all these men treating me like shit in this particular pattern of the twin, I'm excluding him. I got my own issues with him. But so once I figured out that I was modeling my twin relationships on all of these other relationships I had, and I met my husband when I was 20, so all of this stuff happened from like age 11 to age 20. You know, so you're a young person. It doesn't have to be shit when you're an adult. You're a young person. In fact, that's when most of the garbage is dumped on us. So I was like, oh my gosh, I completely created a custom experience. And the soul selves, Michael and the other one, let me just tell you how cute this is. Because Michael is part of M6. He's one of the 6 energies that, I don't know, I've told the story so many times. But the new twin, once Fairy Girl broke off, we each have more split offs of us, more fractals of us. And so this new guy, he is a fractal of Fairy Girl. So he's not like the true twin, but he is a piece of me. I love that. I want to investigate more about that. And you'd think like when you meet somebody that's your like vibrational match, you share soul or whatever, that you guys would just have like this magic perfection together. But that's not true. We do get along and we have similarities, but he's still just a human. He's still just a person. He's who he is. He's formed by his experiences in life. So even though it is sweet, it's not like this perfection that the internet might have you believe. So now that I realize that I have created these custom experiences for myself, I used to think it was like generally speaking, because I've always mentioned, if you have these patterns of relationships, patterns of fucked up shit that happens in your life, it's time to start looking within and figuring out why. And that is true. However, I didn't just have patterns. I had exact circumstances. And I don't know if everybody does, but I think they do. So I want you to take a moment to look at your most fucked up shit and realize that they didn't do that to you. He didn't do that to you. He didn't shit on you. He didn't hit you or, whatever it was. You did it to yourself. You asked the soul self to create this experience for you. So you got nobody to blame but yourself. So, and then that's what Minerva was saying too. She was really trying to hit home with that. It's not the guides, it's you. The guides will help you come up with ideas, but you are solely responsible for every single thing that happens to you. So if you're getting psychic attacks by demons or evil aliens, or if your mama's not being nice to you, or you have some kind of physical disability or anything that you feel like a victim of, you created it. So you got to quit whining and blaming other people. You got to own your shit. You got to figure out why you chose to experience this, what lessons you tried to learn, and learn from it. I have been preaching this forever, and I still see so much shit on the internet about people blaming other situations, other attachments, whatever it is. It's you. If you have an attachment, that's because you wanted to. Your soul self chose to have this. And your human self can decide anytime you want to, I don't need this. I don't have any attachments. None. Nobody can curse me. Nobody can put one on me. Nobody can give me a prayer of protection to say that, to back them off. Why do I need somebody else's words to help me? I can say it all by myself. I'm not going to give my power to somebody else. I'm not going to say somebody else's prayer of protection. I don't even need a prayer of protection because you know why? I'm already protected. I don't even need to be protected because I'm not drawing any of that shit into my awareness. I understand that it's all manifestations. I manifested broken hearts from boys, so that's what I got. But you know what I got to do through those relationships? I got to unfuck myself. Now I want to tell you why I chose to redo this video that I already made. When I started to realize what the ripple effects that were caused because I couldn't get my shit together and learn anymore from Michael, I got guilty about that too. And I thought, why couldn't I learn? But it was like learning off of a wall, staring at a wall, because there was nothing going on between me and Michael. I've said he never felt like a real boyfriend or any kind of romantic relationship to me at all. So how are you going to learn off a wall? And he, and I'm being victim-y. I don't really mean to, but he hurt me so bad. I mean, I couldn't even see his name that he had posted something somewhere. So I had to unfollow him. I had to unfollow all of the groups. I had to make sure I didn't even see his name anywhere. I finally ended up getting to a place where I had to unfriend him entirely. I couldn't do it anymore. And even though my insides love him, I have to just back away because it just hurt. I couldn't learn from him, and that's why the new twin was brought in, and I did learn. I got there. But when I found out that I had a need to create, that movie, Carrie Walker had me at her house not too long ago. We started doing movie reviews, and one of the movie reviews we did was the Adjustment Bureau, which is when your free will choices fuck up the path that you're meant to be on. The Adjustment Bureau will go and change traffic or, whatever, manipulate things in order for this particular occurrence to still happen. So I had an Adjustment Bureau. So I feel like not only did I suck in another man to come and give me this experience of a twin, I had to suck in the girl to represent the one that, got to stand in the spotlight while I was in the shadows being a secret. I had to suck in the other people that oohed and awed and made it public so that I can feel the sting of that. And not only that, I felt bad about all of this stuff. Not only that, I learned something else. And this one devastated me for a while. So I felt bad for possibly creating pain for all of these people. And I know that their soul selves agreed to it. Nobody made them do it. You are not a victim. You choose to do whatever it is you do. But not only that, when Minerva said that you quit learning, but Michael was ready to move on and continue learning. So you know what happened? I also created a need to fill in my role, because what happens next is after, I'm chasing and I find this self-love, I become ready to receive love. And he was ready to give love, but because I wasn't ready to receive it yet, there had to be another girl come in to take that place so that he could have that experience. And I don't really know what happened with that. I don't know exactly what happened. So these are just theories. Like I said, I had to cut all communication down, and I can't do it. One day I will, but I'm actually very curious. I want to hear their story. But he sent a girl to me, and I guess he thought that I would find it interesting, and I did find it interesting, so he was right about that, but I found it more painful than interesting. But she began to tell me her story, and it turns out that she was another version of me. Her heart blasted wide open for this guy she didn't even know, and she couldn't figure it out. So he's like, okay, I know what's going on. I'm going to send you to this girl. She'll be able to tell you. He didn't warn me or anything, and all of a sudden I got this girl knocking on my messenger telling me all this stuff, and I was not prepared to hear it. I did not want to hear it. It hurt me. But later on, in retrospect, I was like, oh my gosh, she is another me. And I felt so bad because this prize I had been chasing, I wanted this love, I wanted this reciprocation. I didn't want to be unrequited anymore. I felt so sad, and I spent weeks in remorse and regret, feeling like I had given my prize to somebody else. I was so sad about that. Oh, it broke my heart. And I had to just feel that. I had to just get that out of my system. And that's why I'm choosing to redo this video, because the last one I did, I just spent too much time in tears regretting that. But if I didn't, fail to learn through Michael, I would not have created that need for the second twin. And I really like him. And I'm looking so forward to spending time with him. However, I know how twin relationships work, and they are not happily ever after kinds of stories. So I'm slightly tempted to ask Michael what happened with him and the step in me, the stand in me, but I don't want to know. I don't want to go there. I know there's going to be a good time to be had, but I hope that the heartbreak that follows isn't too radical. I don't know if it's going to be a heartbreak or not. and I don't think it's my turn to be brokenhearted. I don't like that part one bit. I always wondered how Michael felt about being, my asshole. He was, how does that, how does that feel to know that it's your job to hurt somebody over and over again? That can't feel good. Anyway, that's what a twin journey is. I do know that at the end of the day, and by day I mean lifetime, everything will have worked out and we will all come together in love. So I have that. So after spending so much time being sad about not being able to, claim that love that I've been waiting so long for, I was able to find my silver lining and know that now I get two loves. And it wasn't until earlier today I'd already decided to remake this video, and I'd already become okay with the ripple effects and how I fucked with everybody's shit and dragged them all into my drama. But today I remembered the timeline, because I asked Minerva, I said, when in my evolution did a need for second twin come into play? And I really wanted to know, like, where I was when they decided this, or Michael's, and well, she said, well, when Michael was ready to move on is when this new plan came about. So that didn't really help me out at all. But then I started, going through my clues and stuff, and even though there was a need to have an adjustment bureau, this has been in the works for some time now, because I remember telling Michael clues about twin number 2, not realizing he was twin number 2. And not only that, the guides gave me a timeline for when I will connect with Michael again, and that wasn't supposed to be right now. It's supposed to be in a couple years from now. So that brought me a lot of peace too, going, okay, even though my tracks change, I'm still on the same track that I believed I've been on all along. So I feel much better about that. But I want to tell you another trippy story. I probably should have told you sooner, but it doesn't matter. Like I said, I just bounce all over the place, and sometimes it's just hard to keep chronology. But my guides tried so hard to get me to realize that I was second best, and I just couldn't get it, I guess, because my esteem was so low, and it was just my norm to always be pushed aside and kept, shh, shh. So, Eric's the one, sorry, Michael, I'm going to say this about you, but Eric's the one that said, he's kind of a dick to you. They had to tell me that he's an asshole to me because I just let him. I wouldn't walk away from it. And, he was just nothing. I'm just going to go back to that wall analogy. He was like a wall. There was nothing there. So even though I'd be pouring my heart out to him, I'd get nothing in response. It's not like he was abusive necessarily. And again, I got an opportunity to ask, who was it? Freud. I asked Freud. I had a crazy dream about Michael, and I asked Freud to analyze it. He did not, and I guess that's good because it was, a crazy, weird, pervy, sexy dream. That might have been too much. But he basically said that, if you realized how much he cannot focus on you, it's not that he's ignoring you. He's just trying to live his own life. He's just got like these blinders on so he can stay focused on his own shit. So quit taking it so personally. So that was another clue that he wasn't being mean to me. He was just living his life. But one day out of the blue, this woman named Laura messaged me, and she goes, I have been nudged by spirit to give you a message. Can I call you? And I'm a girl that does not like to talk on the phone, but I was given a message from Justin Schmoyer, this amazing medium. He said, always say yes. So I was like, okay, you can call me. I always wanted information. So what she did, I didn't even know she did readings. And she goes, I'm going to pull a card for you. It's called, this is a life card reading. And that's just a regular deck of cards, the king, ace, whatever. So she gets my birthday, and my card is such and such. And she goes, oh, you have the same life card as Jennifer Aniston. And she goes on to tell the story about how Jennifer Aniston had to kind of live on the sidelines and be like the second best, not necessarily the secret, but the second best, while Brad and Angelina promoted their movie Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And that's when they did that Vanity Fair cover with the happy family that wasn't even their family. But, all this stuff to imply that they are this beautiful power couple and Jennifer's left in the wings. Well, I couldn't understand why I'm getting all these messages until shortly after that was when I learned about Michael and his girlfriend. So I was like, that's why I'm sharing this life card with Jennifer Aniston, why I'm getting this message. And I don't really know why they told me so much. Maybe just to make me aware, maybe to warn me. I certainly didn't put into perspective that I was trying to learn how to not be second best. But isn't that trippy that this woman out of the blue gives me this reading and she's right on the money with that whole, yeah, I was always having to be the secret one. So, let's see what else. Maybe I'll take a little bit of time to talk about how the internet gets manipulated. I don't know if I can explain this coherently because it was a little bit crazy. Well, the bottom line is that I could not find twin number 2 on Facebook. He said he had come back. Oh, I wanted to go back too. This is so crazy. Remember I said at the beginning with Michael, I started texting him through Messenger and I said, did you know I was having a crush on you? Well, I said the exact words to the other one. I'm texting him from my phone going, do you know that I have a crush on you? But he's sitting right next to me in the back seat of a friend's car. And he's like, no, I did not know that. And I was electric for him. And I'm like, I texted him. I said, I have to put my hands on you. And I did. I could not keep my hands off of him the entire week. It was just like the same thing. And I still didn't put it together. It took me so long to realize I was doing it all again. Do you guys remember a long time ago, I used to talk about how I was going to have this big validation in the summertime? And I truly believed, I can't believe I thought this, I believed that I would be coming to when I'm fucking Avery. And that would be like my big validation. First of all, that would be crazy. It'd be one thing to come to and see an alien, but it'd be a completely different story coming to when you're fucking one. I don't think my guides would do that to me. Fairy gold would never scare me like that. But it had nothing to do with Avery. My big validation was having my heart crack open in the same way it did before. And man, I was so floaty. I couldn't breathe. I can't breathe around these men. They affect me so much. When I'm with Michael, I'm like, I'll be right back. And I have to go to the bathroom, put water on my face and just, and I was like that with the other one. And I just did not get it. He's my friend. I remember one time he said to me, I was telling him all my stories about Avery and Eric and Michael. And he's like, man, one day I sure would like to have that experience of recognizing and remembering a soulmate that I was crazy about. And be careful what you wish for because I think it's about to happen to him. I'm still waiting for that moment. But I don't have an expectation tied to it. That's one of the biggest things that I learned too about Minerva, or what Minerva said, is that no, you don't let them go from your hearts. You let them go from the control they have over you. So I have definitely done that. I'm not dependent on them, on their opinions, on their love for mine. But I sure would, like to spend some time with them and have some love from them. But I am me without that. Okay, so back to that whole crazy internet thing. I didn't realize that he had come back. And I kept looking for him and looking for him. And it wasn't until the day that I needed to get pissed off and tell them both to fuck off. That was the day that I was allowed to see something that had been there all along. And I know damn well that it was the guides. I really do want to investigate that. And another weird thing, this is like not part of this story, but at the beginning of this journey, when I was first, getting into channeling Eric, he mailed me a book. I was going to buy the book, but I was like, no, I'll buy it at Jamie's event as a souvenir. Well, that book showed up, his mama's first book. That book showed up in my mailbox like a week later. I don't know how he did that. I don't know how he got that thing addressed to me. It was a signed copy by his mom. She signed it in the bookstore that I used to take my kids to go play the Thomas trains right up the street from me. Isn't that weird? And it ended up being mailed from the town that my dad lived in Oregon. That's crazy. Okay, so I don't know if I've got everything I wanted to talk about. I'm just going to take a moment to just look at my notes. I have 2 sets of notes. If I forget anything, I can tack it on at the end or the beginning. Okay, I don't know. I got my Mexican restaurant order instead. I don't think you guys want to hear that. Okay, yes, my delusions, my crazy. I really was so crazy. I got to talk about that another day. Okay, well, you guys, many of us are on a journey of self-love. So, again, you have to realize in order to get there, you have to be real with yourself. You have to heal from your own wounds. So any kind of shit you're still going through, if you're complaining about a physical ailment, if you're complaining about a loved one not being kind to you, these are all things that you have brought on yourself. So learn from them, okay? Then you can be done with it. I feel like I'm done with all of my kind of spiritual challenges, like the mama thing and the twin thing, the biggest parts of it. I think next is my next challenge is, and I don't even see it as a challenge, it's more of an adventure of learning how, discovering how I'm going to become self-sufficient. And as sad as this is, I know that I'm not going to stay with my husband because I know that my path is to be on my own, become completely independent. And so to just go ahead and disclose a little bit about that, I do fight with him. We do disagree. And he's, he tries to throw the whole manifesting thing right back at me and he's like, you can have whatever you want. And I'm like, I don't, sometimes I say it to him, but what I want, I do want my freedom. So it's hard for me to manifest a successful relationship with him when deep down inside I want to be on my own. So it is sad, but I know it's my path, and I know until I get there that our patterns will continue. We'll continue to argue. We'll continue to not see eye to eye. So I just, I see it for what it is, and it's gonna take a while. My kids are still little. I'm still way too attached to leave this home. I want to be by them, and they're little, and they need their mama too. So anybody that's going through that stuff too, having this mismatch in their relationships, they're gotta kind of come to terms with that and decide what you really want, and know that it's okay, that you are not a failure if your marriage fails. In fact, I think it's very, very brave I have been dependent on another person my entire life. I've never lived on my own. And there was a very short time where I paid like half my share. But I've never been on my own. And I want to be. I don't want to answer to anybody. I want to just have the freedom. I don't know. There's just so much compromise. And because my husband and I just don't see the world in the same way, there's a lot of conflict. And I didn't work so hard in my journey to spend my days in conflict. I just didn't. And I already know, I'll love him forever. We are always going to be family. So when we separate and our dust settles, we'll become great friends. And we will always be parents to our kids. We'll always celebrate holidays. This I know. All right, I sat here. I spoke for almost a whole hour. I have yet to review this. God, I did it without really crying. I cried a bunch of the last one because I was so sad at having missed my turn. All right, let me see what I forgot so I can stick it in somewhere. Okay, you guys, I hope that somebody got something out of this. Thanks so much, guys.